Are we live? Someone let us know if we are. Should be. We are indeed. Whoa. Yes, we always have days like us, Thomas. Okay, I've got the live chat on my phone. I'm guessing you can see what I can see. Yeah, you can. Awesome. I'm just gonna let the chat populate a little bit while we got some time. I have jumped in early, so although I'm fashionably late, I did say originally 6:15 because I was on a phone call. But that phone call ended early, so we're rolling now. So just give it a couple of minutes. This shouldn't take too long. I know this is a live stream, and a lot of my live streams seems to last like an hour, but this one won't, because it's also going to be a standalone video. I figured that I'd have to live stream this chat because I couldn't bring myself to edit it. It was going to be so much work to edit. Basically edit out all the ums, the buts, the ifs, and everything like that. So yeah. Oop. What's news? 4DP test. Oh, grim, Nails. Absolutely grim. I hope it went well. You're all probably wondering why am I sat here in normal clothes and not on a bike for once. Let's give it another 2.5 minutes for people to jump in. For those that missed the rescheduling time, if you're watching this on playback, by the way, you can just skip until like when we start actually talking. This is the only downside to live streams, especially when we're talking about stuff like this, and you gotta wait for people to jump in when they've been notified it's gone live. I can see you, chat. I can see you. How's my day been? My day been alright. My day has been alright, actually. yeah, my day's been good. Enjoyed having a day off. Charlie's in work now. Once we started work, so I'm now holding the fort here. So weird cycling t-shirt. Okay, let's get started then. So disclaimer first off. So this isn't like a GCN does science video in any way. This is not like we're not gonna have like any I don't know what to call it actually. Most of the stuff you're gonna see is going to be data that's like been stockpiled for like a long time, and only now I'm like delving into it really. And we've been given the chance to because people are good enough to put their stuff on Strava. So I've sorted it, we're all good, no more echo. All good? Looks like it, everything else is unticked, so cool, fixed. Alright, so let's jump into them. We'll get it done quick, and yeah, this is not a GCN does science video. I have the live chat open on my phone, so if you want to ask any questions, there's like 6 different things I want to get through, or 6 different points. I'm going to stop at the end of each point, and then you can ask like questions. So that's when I'm going to like glance over to the chat. But apart from that, I'm just going to show you what's on my screen, and we'll get right through it. So those of you that are interested in time trialing, great. If you're not, then I'm sorry, but this still probably applies to you in some way, because it's all about being faster on your road bike, not just on a time trial bike. So yeah, the last few weeks I've been doing some time trialing, just my club time trials, nothing major. But we've been doing 2 courses in particular, a 10-mile time trial and a 15-mile time trial. The 10-mile time trial is like a hilly one, we call it, and then the 15 is like a flat one. It's on the course, so it's a little bit more exposed to the wind. So what I'm going to try and do is create a comparison as well as possible. I mean, the only time me, the guy on the left, and Chris, the guy on the right, who rides for the same cycling club as me, the only time we've gone head to head really on the same night in the same conditions was last night, and I'll tell you what happened later on in the video when I draw that comparison. But what we're going to do is we're going to set our stall out straight away. So as you can see, this is me on the left. Basically that is my position. So I've got road helmet, I have got a long sleeve skin suit, I've got obviously road bike, no aero wheels, and no aero handlebars obviously. Chris on the other hand, he's got Met aero helmet, he's got Velotech skin suit, which is custom made, he's got Cervelo. I'm not sure which model Cervelo that is, but it is an older model because it's exposed brakes, as you can see. No pins, overshoes. I'm pretty sure he's got like the Aero Coach wheels. He's definitely got the Aero Coach tri-bars. And he's wind tunnel tested. So a couple of hours in a wind tunnel one day, he said, and it's a pretty well optimized position. Chris is around about he's in the 70s kilogram range, and I'm obviously 60 kilograms. So we're drawing this comparison in a number of ways. We're looking at like power, we're looking at a position on the bike, and we're looking at what that does to your overall time in real world examples and real world conditions. So I'm going to show you first off a time trial in March that I did. At the end of this section, which won't take me long, I'll jump over to the chat. But the TT in March that I did was 10 miles. It was on a dual carriage rate. That picture on the left is actually from that time trial. And I think, I can't remember, actually, I've got the time here. What am I talking about? Here's the time. Here's the results from that time trial in March. So I haven't got the data because my Wahoo mucked up and I lost all data from that ride. Lee Parrott won the event, and this was an open time trial now, so you can when cycling time trials organise like events in the UK, anything goes pretty much. So there's no UCI ruling. You don't have to have like a certain sock length, or you don't have to be like with the centimeters behind the bottom bracket and all that malarkey. So I was second in that event. I was second by like 30 seconds, average speed 28.4 mile an hour, and yeah, Lee basically did almost 1 mile an hour faster than me. But I was on road bike in that setup. Lee was on time trial bike, Anthony was on time trial bike, Guy was on TT bike. Basically everyone in that top 10 was on a time trial bike. So I did a 21:04 on a road bike. Poor conditions, but this is what we're drawing upon now. So this is Lee's ride. I averaged 379 watts for this time trial, and Lee averaged 310 watts, 4.8 watts per kilo. Now you're going to hear me like refer back to watts per kilo during this video because it is the only measurable or comparative metric that we can use in a situation like this, because we don't know Lee's FTP. We can almost guarantee that Lee is working at between 100 and 110% of his FTP for this time trial, because that is what you'd expect a rider to be doing for 20 minutes. At least that's what I was doing. That's what a lot of riders do. But the only way to compare, actual pound for pound, who's the most efficient rider, because although efficiency is accounted for in many ways, i.e., you could be more aerodynamic and therefore be more efficient and therefore be faster. In this regard, our only comparative metric is watts per kilo, regardless of us going uphill or not. So 4.8 watts per kilo is what he is pushing to do that 21-minute time trial. Now, a couple of weeks ago, so this is in March when the weather's crap. A couple of weeks ago, Chris, who's the rider on the right, yes, he will be doing 100% in TT position. You would hope. I broke my own rule. I glanced over to the chat. But Chris went over to the Merthyr 10, and he rode on the same course a couple of weeks ago. Better conditions, obviously. All things being considered, same course, but he did a 19-minute flat time trial, which actually broke Binier's club record. And he averaged 350 watts, which is 4.6 watts per kilo. So the difference between Lee and difference between Chris is, 0.2 of a watt per kilo. We could say that Chris is more aerodynamic. We could say that Lee is wasting power in places, or it could be that Lee is obviously heavier and therefore he's just pushing out more power just to get the same speed as Chris. But chances are he's not as aerodynamic as Chris. Right. Looking over to the chat. Yeah. Well, this is what I've been told, Niels. People are saying that I'm... they reckon that I am more aerodynamic than most people on a road bike. So we're going to keep coming back to the picture, if it'll load. We'll keep coming back to the picture of me and Chris to make the comparison. So you can obviously tell that I'm more upright. You can tell that obviously I'm not shrugged in with my shoulders and things like that. But one of the biggest things I do is I try to keep my elbows in 90 degrees. Now they're not there, but that doesn't mean they're not the rest of the time. But I try and keep my elbows 90 degrees. I try and keep tucked in as much as possible. Some people have asked if I rest my hands on the bars as if I was riding a time trial bike. I don't do that because I haven't got anything to hold on to, so therefore I can't get any like leverage. But aside from that, like I'm basically just trying to hold myself as steady as possible in, you know, a powerful enough position as possible. If I was in the drops, I have a tendency to push myself up higher, and like I can't hold myself low when my arms are in the drops. I feel like I'm always like with locked out elbows, so that's just creating a massive windbreak with my chest, basically. So we've looked at that. We've looked at their power. So now we're gonna have a look at my course record time that I did in about a month ago on Binya's 15-mile time trial course. So this is the graph from that. I'm just going to highlight this section here. So this is 31 minutes and 20 seconds, 388 watts, 384 watts. That's 6.5 watts per kilo. Now, this is incredibly well paced. Chris, that I'm about to show you, Chris's effort when he actually then went and broke my course record 2 weeks later. He had stronger wind conditions that night, but I had probably no wind the night that I did it. Now, I assumed that that a lighter wind day would be better, but it all depends on how fast you are in your time trial position, is what I figured out. Because even though I actually didn't lose time to him in the headwind, it was probably because he was so aerodynamic that he was just slicing through the wind anyway. Chris has obviously a lot larger gear on his time trial bike. I think he has a 56 tooth 1x setup, and in the tailwind he was just going very, very fast. So this is his ride from the 2 weeks after my effort, and you can see the difference in speed in the first section, which if I highlight it for you here, we can see he's doing like 55, 56, 54, 55, and I'm doing 48, 49, 47, so I'm almost doing 10 kilometers an hour less. He had tailwind in that section, but then when we turned back in the headwind, we were doing roughly the same speed. Obviously him being in a headwind, me being in no wind. So the way that we rode the course was almost both identical, to be fair. Like he pushed on the ups on the circuit, and then I also pushed on the ups. He probably rested a bit more than me on the descent, and then we both finished like quite strong. The obvious difference being that I'm doing 384 watts, which is 6.5 watts per kilo, and he's doing 340 watts, which is 4.5 watts per kilo. So obviously they're different days, and there's only so much we can learn about the difference. One day can be from the next, but what we can learn is, even if, for argument's sake, I was to be put on the exact same setup as Chris, without wind tunnel testing and everything else, and I was only able to push 6 watts per kilo instead of 6.5, I would still be going faster than if I was on a road bike. If that is possible to assume. It's probably not, but it's a good assumption. So last night, and this is now I guess this is like the main reason why I wanted to do this, is to talk about last night's time trial. Um, Tim, how you doing, Tim? So the next part I wanted to explain was the time trial that we did last night. So I'm going to show you the course. This is it here. So obviously the green dot is the start, and then the finish is over there. This is as you can see, you finish at a higher elevation than you start. It's it is typical of a grippy time trial course. If I zoom out a bit here, you'll see that it's on a peninsula, so it's very, very susceptible to wind. Look, it's the blooming British Channel there. You can see mine head as well, look. So this is like a notorious circuit. Not a lot of people tend to do it because it's so slow. Majority of people, the average time for this course is something like a 28-minute 10-mile time trial, which, as most of you know, is like pretty slow as far as time trialing goes. So with this course, it's all about investing on the climbs and then using the short descents as recovery, and then of which there's like probably 3 major ones. So there's 1, 2, and then ever so slightly here before you make a dead turn, which is this section right here. So the wind last night was coming from the southwest, so it was like coming this way, which meant we didn't have a direct tailwind for this last section. It was more like a cross tailwind, but it did mean that we had a block headwind going out to the turn here. Now, me and Chris went up against each other last night for the first time in probably over a year, and I got the better of Chris by 4 seconds. Now, the biggest interesting part about this time trial last night was obviously it would be interesting to see how fast Chris would go over a hilly circuit, being that he weighs about 15 kilos more. But it'd also be interesting to see if I could claw back any time on the climbs, and if the climbs were long enough and steep enough and therefore slow enough for me to bring the time back. So when I look at the course last night, I averaged 387, but I had a normalize of 394 because of obviously the freewheeling. Chris, I can tell you for a fact now, averaged 350 watts, which is what he did at the 15-mile time trial, which is like 4.8 watts per kilo. The climbs here, I'm doing like well over 7 watts per kilo for some of these, so that's 7.3. The last one up here, the drag is 6.9. And if I look at the comparison tool, everything is revealed. So the blue baseline is Chris, and the purple line is me. Before we even get to the turn, I'm 25 seconds down. So being 25 seconds down in the first 7 minutes of the time trial is a massive, of hemorrhage time, basically, of hemorrhage time. And this section is flat. Okay, I know there's a climb there, but it's like 30-second climb. Okay, for some of you, that's probably like a fair climb. I know you're going to say it, but this first part is flat. So into a direct headwind, a block headwind of like 10 or 13 mile an hour, Chris puts 25 seconds into me. We hit the first climb, and it drags and drags. It's an evil one. I bring it back to 7 seconds, and then it goes back out again as it flattens out, and as it goes downhill slightly, it takes it back out to 15 seconds. Then we hit the next climb, and he hemorrhages 7 seconds in the space of a minute. Levels off, he gains time, and then hemorrhages time all the way to the line, in which he's probably gaining on me as the course flattens out as we get to the finish. But what I was very, very surprised with was how much time he'd gained here in this first section. And I think when I got to that corner last night, one of one of the organisers was stood on that corner and he showed it to me and he said you were 15 seconds down, but he didn't want to say 25 seconds because he knew that that was a massive gap. But it's interesting in that last section where we do get this cross tailwind, is that even though he's going faster, or at least he should be going faster, he doesn't actually pull away because the climbs, even though they're short, they are enough to slow him down. And enough to slow him down enough that the aero benefit is actually disappeared. Now, I don't know, I didn't speak to Chris afterwards, but I don't know whether or not he rode in the aero bars the whole way around, or whether or not he climbed, on the outsides and he climbed out the saddle to power over some of these, or what. But a lot of these climbs, they're long enough to just power over. So it's an interesting one when you look at it. When you look at road bike versus time trial bike, or at least optimized setup, I think we'll call it in Chris's case, and whether or not, where is that offset on a hilly course versus a flat course. How is my max heart rate so low? Yeah, because of my fitness level, probably. My resting heart rate isn't that low. It's like 50. This course is 10 miles, 16k. So yeah, it got me thinking, like, what is the... Yes, Harry. I mean, yeah, it's simple, isn't it? People always say, like, oh, how come, your max heart rate in the winter last year was like 195 and now it's only like 182. It's because you're fitter. But it has led me to think that for next year in particular, I need to think about time trial bike. I need to think about not even needing potentially wind tunnel test, even though that would be probably the biggest area to focus on. It would be very interesting to see what my CDA is on a road bike in that position. And it would be very interesting to see if I did get a time trial bike, what times I could do when going up against riders who are pushing, almost 1.5 watt per kilo less. If I'm still pushing, let's say my best 20-minute power on a road bike is 395. If I can push 380 on a TT bike, where does that leave me in terms of time trialing? If you look at Dan Bingham pushes around 5 to 5.5 watts per kilo for a 10-mile time trial. He's in a very, very optimized setup. If I was on a very, very optimized setup for myself and I was able to push 6 to 6.4 watts per kilo, we're talking about an 18-minute 10-mile time trial, probably even less, depends on the day and the weather conditions. Does that put me in a very good place to be competitive in time trial in the UK? It's something that I've been thinking about regarding next year, and that's why I wanted to do a video where we talk about it and discuss it, and where we discuss, like, if any of you have made the switch from road bike to time trial bike, and if any of you have you know, hand wind tunnel testing and things like that, because that's something that I could possibly do next year while we're floating between Zwift racing, hill climbing, and all the other stuff in between. Narrow bars as in narrow road bars. Narrow road bars would be a good shout. That's what a lot of people have done that I've seen who just do the road bike time trials. I was going to do a lot of road bike open time trials this year, but they were all cancelled, and I think I would have had a good chance of winning quite a few of them based on the simple fact that I'm riding against, you know, the likes of Chris. Chris is in the top 50 time trialists in the UK. You know, just he's probably the best time trialist in Wales right now, Chris. So well, funny you mentioned the clip-on handlebars, but Charlie's got a pair. Well, I gave Charlie a pair a while ago, and we're gonna retrieve them from a parent's house soon, I hope. And I'm gonna try another time trial before the season's out, to see what I can crack, because I think with a even I've done a little bit of research as well, and even with, you know, TT bike, it doesn't make that much of a difference between having a TT bike and just having clip-ons on a road bike, because it's all down to that position and that position being optimized. So, you know, I could just throw, you know, aero bars onto my road bike. That won't necessarily make me faster, but it is interesting. I think it would make an interesting video for yourselves, probably. You know, if I was to just, you know, take last night's time trial, for example, and then, you know, come back next week or the week after with the aero bars, and, you know, just see what difference it makes. You know, try and do the same weather conditions, same time of day. So would you be interested in seeing that? Would you be interested to see if there was, like, it can almost be like a little field test, a little experiment video. This is where this is lead in, really, because it's something I could probably do quite well, as a side project. Yeah, do you have to be flexible though, Niels? Because I know an awful lot of people that aren't flexible who are very good time trialists. Chris, for one, is not very flexible at all. He doesn't do any flexibility training. He never trains in his time trial position on his time trial bike, and yet he is he is probably the fastest time trialist in Wales and in the top 50 in the UK. So it's not necessarily something you have to train in. It all depends on if it's optimized enough. If it's optimized well enough, you don't necessarily need to spend an awful lot of time in it. Plus, they've moved further away from the flat back situation to the narrower situation. I have very narrow shoulders, so it's kind of natural to me. I've always done I'll recall a time trial that I did. Some of you might remember this, some of you probably don't remember it. Depends how far back you've been a subscriber. But when I crashed heavily in 2018 in June in Canada, and I left half of my skin in Quebec, basically the time trial I did the evening before the stage I crashed, I was there on my JLT Condo time trial bike, which was a secret. No, it's not really a secret. It was a Dolan time trial bike that was sprayed black, So, it wasn't one of the fastest bikes in the world. And then one of my teammates who was there targeting the time trial, very, very strong time trialist in his own right, had a specialized shiv, had a casque, air helmet, can't remember which one, had, the long socks and all this malarkey, and actually beat him by 12 seconds over a 32-minute time trial. So, I was on a time trial bike that I literally just jumped on. I'd ridden maybe twice that year. So I think there's scope there for yeah, that's what I'm saying. TT bike is probably a compromising position in power output. It is. So hence why if my power output is 6.7 watts per kilo, then could I get lower? Could I afford to go down to 6 watts per kilo and still go a lot faster, is the question. No, it's not Paul. It's not consistency in riding hours in TT position. Because, like I said, there's not a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the TT position nowadays. You don't have to be flexible, but you don't have to. Sometimes some riders just jump on it. But this was the idea behind this video. The idea behind this video is to chat openly about the difference between a road bike and a time trial bike, an optimized position, non-optimized position. This is me after. So after the crash in Canada, I came back and I rode the Gower 10 course, same course. Slightly faster night than it was last night, as in there was still no wind, and yet looking at my power is 365, which is 6.1 watts per kilo, or 371 normalized, so you call it 6.2 watts per kilo. But on a time trial bike, it's considerably faster for less power. That's 20 watts less power, and I've gone like in similar conditions, what was it, 20 seconds. So that's a 23:13. I did a 22:38. So you can call it 30 seconds, kind of 30 seconds difference, 30 seconds faster for half a watt per kilo less. Again, that's what I did 2 years ago. So that was done on a Dolan time trial bike that was borrowed from the team. So, there's lots of things to take away from this. If you're interested in getting into time trialing, even if it's just like to improve your own ability, because that's what I use them for, really. I use them as like a test for myself, more power test than anything else. But I always look at them and I think, what can I get of this one? How does it fit into my training plan? But also it can serve as a massive motivator if you're against riders who are, on full time trial setup, and you can push them, or not even fight for the win, but fight for a top 10, because it's still all counts, really. But the thing about as well to take away from this is the difference you can make in pacing. Like the difference between me and Chris. I'm going a lot harder on the climbs here than Chris is. I'm going a lot easier here on the flats than Chris is, because Chris is using that extra speed and the aerodynamics that he has to pick up more speed for the descents, and I'm having to go deeper on the climbs to get that time back. So the pacing comes down to a lot on the On the flatter circuits, there's not a whole lot you can do. You just get as aerodynamic as possible. The weather plays a big part, like I said, knowing the course, knowing where you can invest time and save yourself as well. I certainly wasn't saving myself going out to the turn here, and yet I still lost 25 seconds. So, and then training for events like this, it's lots and lots of time at threshold, isn't it? Ooh, Lord's got a good question. The people who spend a lot of time on their TT bike, Dosset and Campanards, I think they just spend a lot of time on their time trial bike because they enjoy it, not necessarily to make them go faster. They're just very good. They've obviously got very fast positions. Dosset doesn't actually put a lot of power out on his time trial bike. I think it's fair to say, like, Dosset isn't, he hasn't got like, he's not like putting out 7 watts per kilo for 20 minutes and coming fifth. He's putting out like 5.8, 5.9 watts per kilo, and still getting a good ride, because it is down to aerodynamics, isn't it? It's not down to watts per kilo or raw power at the end of the day, unless you're going on a dead flat road, of course. But there is some merit behind it. I mean, he's getting used to it, but it is also down to the fact that they are time trial specialists. So why wouldn't they? It's just like me spending all my time on my hill climb bike. Why wouldn't I? Last year's Tour of Britain, I didn't have a power meter on there, so I don't know what I did, and I also didn't do a very good ride because that time trial bike was built about 6 hours before I did the time trial, and I'd never ridden it before in my life. So go figure. Like that's what it's like when you're not riding World Tour. I've never had a bike fit in my life. Never. Sorry, just catching up on the chat. Bardet, Bardet's not a great time trialist. He's a little bit all over the place. Although you've never seen me on a time trial bike, so what can I say? It is a difficult situation. But some riders you put on a time trial bike and they just fly, regardless. It does also depend on your shape. Dosset is very fast, but he's very fast because of his body shape as well as everything else. Bardet, the same reason why Hugh Carthy is not a good time trialist. They're very long-limbed, they're very thin, they're very gangly, they don't go very well in a time trial. It's not just, you look at Quintana, and Quintana's the opposite end of that spectrum. Quintana doesn't go very well in the time trial usually. We're generalising, but he doesn't usually go well in the time trial. Oh, nice one, Niels. I appreciate that. We'll definitely do something. Definitely. Anyway, any last minute questions before I jump off for food? We have it's burger night tonight. Sorry. Scott just asked, so I had to answer. Yeah, and I'm not by no means an aerodynamic expert, so I'm not grilling flipping Dosset, I'm not grilling Bingham, any of the names I mentioned. I'm a complete like noob when it comes to these things, so I'm in no way throwing shade over these people. Yeah, I wasn't very surprised when Wout van Aert won the Belgium national TT jumps. No, you don't have to train a lot in the TT position to put power out in the TT position, unless you're doing a 24-hour time trial, maybe. What's my inside leg measurement? I've actually got a tape measure here somewhere. Believe it or not, I will take it for you right now, Tim. Is this for new kit? You have to bear with me, I got pajamas on, so. No, it's actually burger night. Series on it. It's about 33 inches, my inside leg. Just measured it for you then. When's the next time trial? There is no time trials now, apart from the mock one that I'll do when I pick up these aero bars, just to do a little test for you all now that we've set the stone for this. Oh, cheers, Mick. Yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah, I think I'm like quite evenly proportionate. I mean, you've seen me in real life, Tim. Like, I'm quite evenly proportioned, I feel. I'm not, I'm not like a weird length, like. No, the bars are just some cheap bars, like 25 quid. I bought them years ago. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Because we've been on for like an hour now, nearly. So I appreciate you joining in for this, even though it's not a actual live stream. But I couldn't do this without like blooming editing it, so it had to be a live stream. They're nothing fancy, guys. The aero bars, they're just like cheap ones from like Wiggle. Like, they're nothing fancy, honestly. Mick, if you can find the video where Vegan Cyclist has done that power overlay thing, can you send it to me somewhere, please? Anywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. But yeah, apart from that, thank you very much for watching and contributing, because it's a great exercise in like helping us all be better cyclists, regardless if we want to go faster or not. Some of us just want to get to the cafe quicker. Brilliant. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll initiate that experiment very, very soon. So enjoy your evening, and Niels, drop me a DM. I'll respond to you in like 30 seconds. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you